Yo, what's good, everybody? So, man, today this is so special for me. So, before we get started, shout out to Dom Dollar, shout out to DTD brand and everything for the new layout. And this is actually the first time you guys gonna see this layout, so this is pretty awesome. And I have a great person here. So, real quick, before I get to introducing this guy, I want to say this. You know, in baseball, they have this thing called a 5-2 player, right? Where you kind of talk about hitting, running, and everything. Well, this guy here is what I call the 5 tool of entertainment. And what I mean by that, and I'm a freestyle this, like he's charismatic, number one. Like we know he could play all the roles if he wanted to. Style. The man got style. Trust me, he got style. And grace. That's another one. Very graceful. Like, just studying him over the years, just his grace with everything he does, whether it's music, which we're gonna talk about, his acting, everything. It's all about grace. And of course his knowledge. The guy has a ton of knowledge. Like you can't just play these roles without knowledge, right? So I think that's another thing. And last, wisdom. The wisdom part is it's a beautiful thing, man. And like I said, if you grew up in my household, if you grew up in any household, you had to see this guy. Like you saw him in many different things. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna introduce him, man. Leon Robinson. Leon, thanks for coming, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Man, this is a great moment for me, man. So before we get to your music and everything, because I want to ask you some things about your music, because I enjoy your music and I need to talk to you about that. I got a few questions.
Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. So let's get into your acting career real quick. And what made you want to act?
Wow, well, first and foremost, I'm a storyteller.
Okay.
And so I love telling stories. And so being an actor was a way of telling a story or being part of telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, theater. Theater is the mother of all acting. It's the only time we get to tell a story from beginning to end right in front of an audience. Not like in a movie or a TV show where I may get married the first day on set and then die the next day and then fill in all the blanks. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically, I've always been a storyteller and always wanted to do that. And then I just happened to see some productions when I was young that made me think that I could do this, and I guess it kind of changed my life in that respect.
And the thing about you is this. It seems like you just have an eye for picking the right roles. A lot of people just like is when it's coming to like sports, you pick the right player when you draft them. You know how to draft these roles and get the right roles. So a few roles that I want to talk about. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you talk about this all the time. Your Temptations role, David Ruffin.
Mm-hmm.
How did that become a thing for you to do? Because obviously the music, which we're going to talk about, but how's it to play David Ruffin?
David Ruffin role came about in a very interesting way. I did a movie that's become iconic called The Five Heartbeats. Yeah. And shortly after that, Otis Williams, who's a founding member of the Temptations, who the movie was based on, I met him and he told me that they were going to make a movie out of his book one day and that he wanted me to play him. And I was like, yeah, wow, Temptations, of course, So then eventually the movie did come around, and Suzanne DePass from Motown and David Picker from Hallmark and everybody, they all called me in for a meeting and said to me, we're aware that Otis wants you to play him in this movie. And before we get into any negotiations, we just wanted to ask you a question. And I said, sure. They said, we're just curious, if Otis hadn't, didn't want you to play this movie, then what role would you think you should play?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, in all honesty, I probably would serve this movie best if I played a role of David Ruffin.
Wow.
And they were like, oh my God, we're so happy you said that. We didn't know who you're gonna get to play David Ruffin if you didn't play David Ruffin. And so that's basically how that came about.
Man, and see, to me, it's just that the character, like I think beyond the singing, because you did a wonderful job singing and doing all that, but like the character, like I said, charismatic, that part, being able to like adjust to playing him. Like people have one-liners for you. Like I swear to you right now, I can go somewhere and someone who's seen that movie, they always come with the line, don't nobody care about you, Otis, nobody come to see you. And I'm pretty sure you get asked that all the time, right? Like,
well, no, people say it to me. They write it on my Instagram every single day. There's so many memes. There's so many this crazy stuff. And it was so crazy about it is, one, I feel bad because people run up to actually the real Otis Williams and say it to him all the time now.
Oh, wow.
And also, and what's crazy is I have to take a little bit of responsibility because that's a line that I ad-libbed. That wasn't in the script.
Wow.
So, yeah, it just that line is just taking on a life of its own, man. I mean, from the normal guy on the street to, any celebrity then run up to me and said that line. It's
man,
crazy.
see everybody, that's when I talk about being charismatic. The guy is able to, he ad-libbed that. Like, that's something I never knew. I thought that maybe that was actually like a real thing. For you to ad-lib that was amazing because like people, if, rest in peace, Dave Rubber, if people were to like actually go up and ask him that, he probably like, I didn't say that, but like for you to do that, it made it so realistic. And I think that that's awesome. So obviously,
well, one of the things that made it so realistic is that was who I was. When I played the role of David Ruffin, I'm a bit of a method actor, so I stayed in character the entire time. Okay. So when I'm working on a scene and when I'm in rehearsal, I'm liable to say something that I actually feel or that I think is real. And, that just came out of like just being in the scene, just being that guy. That just came out, and yeah.
And see, you mentioned Five Heartbeats. So, Robert Townsend, all you guys were in that movie. And that's just, to me, for my money, I always tell people when you talk about music docuseries or bios or whatever, that to me is one of the best ones I've ever seen, if not the best, because I feel like it was so realistic. Like a lot of stories that are told within it, like how the band's like, you always have the guy that may have fell off, had so much talent, right? And then drugs or something happened. And like your character, like the things that you guys are going through, it was so realistic. Can you talk about being on the set with Robert Townsend? Obviously, he's a genius in things that he does. Can you talk about that?
Well, yeah, working with Robert's great. I got to work with him a couple more times after because I got to direct Little Richard, which was great. Yes. And it was, to be honest with you, it was a little bit strange for me because I had not worked with an actor who was also my director. So it's odd. So I'm doing a scene with him, but he's also my director. So that took a bit getting used to.
See, that's amazing how, once again, you're able to adjust. Like, you can separate the characters. Because a lot of time when I watch actors or actresses, it's hard to, you kind of know how they're going to do it. And it's like every role you played, you've been able to adjust and like, you change up. And it's amazing how you're able to change up. So obviously a cultural movie that comes to mind. And if you got Disney Plus, y'all need to go see this movie. I got nieces and nephews that have seen this movie and they're like, they think it came out yesterday. So Cool Runnings. So obviously we're going to talk about sports in a minute, but Cool Runnings. At the time that you did that movie, did you realize how big of a cultural impact that would have?
No, not really. To be honest with you, a lot of people were thinking the movie was silly. It was a silly idea, and didn't think much of it. And yet, for young Black men from Jamaica, made history by going to the Olympics and all the lessons learned and the life lessons during that movie was what really got people, and also identified with these men as though they were from their own country.
Man, and see, I just think that's amazing because, like, once again, your range is amazing. You're able to change your voice, do certain things to get it to where you're playing that role. So obviously for me, as a sports person, obviously covering basketball, I got to ask you this first off, Above the Rim. And this is, to me, anybody can ask you, if anybody knows me, this is one of my 3 favorite movies of all time. Number 1, I got to ask you this off the bat.
What's your other 2?
My other 2 movies all time, if I go that way. So Above the Rim, there's a movie that Forrest Whitaker played in. It was sort of an underground movie called American Gun, story about him being a principal. It's not such a popular movie, but I like the message behind the movie, and it kind of relates to a lot of stuff, what I was going through in school and stuff. So it was pretty interesting that. And number 3, number 3. You know what? Because what makes this number 3 for me, because in school I was such a bad kid in school. And I remember in 5th grade we had to read this book, right? And the only way I was going to read this book was because I saw the movie and I enjoyed the movie. The Outsiders.
Ah, yes, those are all my friends in that movie.
Yeah, man. So the Outsiders, man, like, because I didn't want to
read that in school too. Outsiders and Rumblefish.
Yeah. There you go. So Yeah, you already know that. So yeah, those are my three. But above the rim, man. So I gotta ask you this off the bat. You hit all those mid-range jumpers yourself because I don't know if everybody's asked you this. You hit a lot of mid-range jumpers in that tournament, the shootout. I gotta ask you that.
Well, a couple things. That's one, that's all me. Two, I was the second leading scorer in New York City when I was in high school. And I played for Loyola Marymount, and I played some pro ball in Europe. And if you know basketball, you know the problem with a lot of these ball players today is they don't have any mid-range game.
There you go.
You know, Michael Jordan, first person to tell you, man, develop that mid-range game. Because if you can come in, if you can get a step on someone and pull up right there where you are, that's hard to stop.
Man. And see, that's to me was amazing, like your form. And I had, the other day I was talking to my wife and I was just like, trust me, I watch this movie at least once or twice a month, right? So I was just sitting there, I was like, he's coming off these screens. It's like perfect every time. Like his form, it never changes. I'm like, this guy had to hoop. Like, there's no way he can move like that. He understands where to move, where it's like, it's so graceful. So obviously being Tommy Shepard, I got to ask you this. You on the set with a couple of obviously iconic people, I think, in the terms of like our hip hop culture. So Tupac, you played his brother obviously in that movie. Can you talk about, working with Tupac on that movie set and how that was?
With me and Tupac, our scenes are always great. That's because he had a great deal of respect for me. I remember when he came in for his read-through, he was loud and bodacious like he could be. But he came right up to me and was like this. You're not going to have a problem with me because you are in the 5 heartbeats. And that's what he said to me. And it was like, when we had to do our scenes, he was on time, he was on point, and we knocked him out. And he was 100% professional. Now, when he wasn't doing scenes with me, sometimes he was wilding out on the set. And all kind of things was going on. And he got arrested a couple times and, delayed production. But, with me, he was 100.
Yeah, and it was so realistic. Like watching the movie, it just seemed like it looked like you guys were brothers because like it was just two different guys, and like your focus in the movie, you were so. And I got to tell you this off the bat, you were so serious in that movie, man. Like your voice was like really low all the time. Like my favorite part of the movie till this day. And me and one of my friends, we used to mimic this in high school. We used to always do this when you were playing one-on-one versus Kyle, and like. You ripped the ball from him. You said, Georgetown? I don't think so. Like, that is like, it was just so cool. Like, you just like, who is this dude, man? This dude's like Jordan, man. Like, what is this, man? So I got to ask you another person that was on that set, Marlon Wayans. And obviously, Marlon now, from then to now, it's like a totally different thing. And obviously, the character he played, obviously, it was sort of goofy and fun. But at the end, you know what happens at the end, obviously, how that works out. How was it to work with Marlon?
Well, I didn't have as many scenes with Marlon, but Marlon's full. Marlon's a fun-loving guy, like the rest of his family, very talented. And I saw him recently at Dave Chappelle's Mark Twain award thing because we were all at the party and I performed and everything. So always good to see Marlon, man. I'm happy for his success. I'm happy for his whole family's success, actually, to be honest with you. And he always had that extra energy that, always trying to make, add something to a scene, I think that a lot of that comes from, a lot of the improv work he did, and I thought he was a really good touch to the movie.
Man, can I ask you this also? So do you realize how big of a cultural impact and like, for us, like not even just like in our culture, but like hip hop in general, how big that movie is to us? Like, do you realize that obviously being
no, without a doubt. It's whether I'm in the hip hop scene or even at basketball, man. I go to professional basketball games, man. There's not a dude on any team that's not like saying, "Yo, Shep." So they don't all seen that movie. In my personal opinion, being a ball player, I've seen a lot of basketball movies and. As far as a movie is concerned, a movie with stories and actors are concerned, and I don't usually say this, but I just feel as though it's the best basketball movie because in order to be a good movie, you have to have quality actors and a quality story. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, we got the basketball. And then when you have ball players that can really ball, you
Yes.
know, like, you know, our practices before were intense. They were crazy because, you know, one, Dwayne Martin was one of the last people cut from the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it wasn't for Mark Jackson, he might have made the team. And so that begins to show you how good of a ball player he was. And then all the ball players you saw, they were all taken from the Rucker. Those are all street ball players, Speedy, all of them. Man. They was like, those are the boys you go out there and see weekly. So we was running with them. So yeah, it was I thought as far as the basketball was concerned, as far as the story was concerned, and the street culture, you know, and of course the soundtrack.
Oh my God.
You know, it all added to a realness to it, which I think people identify with.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this off the soundtrack off the bat. I remember at the time when Kmart's existed, right? When Kmart's existed out here in Texas, I remember that soundtrack came out because at the time I was about how old was I? I was about 9 at the time, and I remember the song "Regulate," and I remember playing at the end. I kept like playing that song. I tried to find a way to record it on the radio, and my grandmother, out of all people, rest in peace to her, she went to Kmart and actually got me the tape. And it was a custom version of everything. I'll never forget it. It was the greatest thing ever. And by the way, underrated soundtrack, by the way, and movie history.
Yeah, but then, you know, the one thing about the soundtrack, I wouldn't say it was underrated because it went to number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people were feeling that right off the jump. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into sports, you mentioned Little Richard, and I think that's a huge honor. You know, rest in peace to Little Richard. You know, and I just, man, how is it to play Little Richard? Because, like, you know, man, that's like I said, when I talked about you being a 5'2" player type guy, that has to be one of the two who's like able to play him because you know he's unique. He's a one-on-one. How was it to play Little Richard?
You know, it was like everything else, a lot of hard work. You know, a lot of weeks in rehearsals and going over songs and choreography, and you know, just trying to make sure that I did the architect of rock and roll justice. You know, not just in his performances, because those alone, you know, you have to make sure you capture those and make sure that you show his greatness, but also in his spirit. You know, and that's the most important thing, I think, whenever you portray someone who actually walked and talked on this earth, who has family members and friends, you owe it to them to capture their spirit. You know, and so, you know, I did my best, you know, to make sure that, you know, I gave him, you know, or gave people something to remember him by.
Amazing. So now sports. This is where I got to get you in. So you're a Knicks fan, obviously. Pre-production, we talked about this. You're a Knicks fan.
Unfortunately, I must confess, I am. I'm part of the Knicks Garden family. Yes, I am.
Okay. So right now, obviously, your team, you got RJ Barrett, you got a lot of young pieces there. I don't even know how to start with the Knicks because, like, what does the future hold for the Knicks? Because, like, we keep saying rebuild, and then, like, you traded away the guy that didn't want to be there, obviously, because he didn't want to be there. And that was a part of your future. So, being a Knicks fan, like, what do you see for them in the future, and how hard is it to be a Knicks fan?
Well, you know, it's extremely hard to be in a place they call the Mecca of basketball and have a team that hasn't been very good for the last 20 years. You know, the Knicks need to, and it's hard because when you live in New York City, which is the media capital of the world, you know, the press is on you constantly and it's rough and everyone can't take it. And the problem is we don't have consistency. You know, when things are not working out well, you don't fire the coach right away. You don't fire the general manager. It's always like when something doesn't work out, someone has to be the fall guy. That's not the way it works. You have to put a system in place, and it's going to be rocky. It's going to be rough sometimes. But if you have a plan and you stick to it, okay, you have a plan and you stick to it, that's the only way it's going to work. If you look at all these teams, you know, it's so funny. There's a statement that was made that a lot of people had, some people take issue with, and I'll make it because I've made it many times when I say that front offices win championships, not players.
You're right.
Okay?
You're right.
And, you know, some people, you know, try to take an issue with that, but it's like, I'm sorry, that's the way it is. You know, if you look at the teams that are successful in this league, whether it be the Lakers, the Celtics, the Spurs, look at their front office situation. It's consistent year in, year out. You know, you don't not seeing different people getting fired every 2 seconds because they have a bad season or something like that. They have a plan. They stick to it. They have an identity. They stick to it, and they make it work until it works, and it usually does. If you look at the Golden State Warriors, they're a very smart team with a very smart front office. Okay, they put those pieces together. These are front office people, whether the owners, general managers, they're just moving pieces. They're moving pieces. Okay, if you want to know what team is going to be successful, the next team is going to be successful, I can tell you right now, it's going to be wherever Jerry West goes.
You're right. It starts.
Okay?
I mean, because I mean,
I'm just telling you that's the way it is. I mean, I don't care what players you get, whatever. You have to know what players to put together, what players are going to be right with the right coach and everything else. It's a team game. And I don't care how great. We've seen some of the greatest ball players in the world never win championships. Okay, and it's always going to be that way unless the right team is put around them at the right time, and preferably at a time where some other team or player isn't dominating things. I mean, you know, Pat Riley said it's like it doesn't make a difference how great of a team you had. The Knicks had fantastic teams in the 90s. Unfortunately, Michael Jordan was around, and the Bulls.
That's correct.
And Jerry Krause was a very smart general manager who put the right team together, who knew when to elevate a guy to become a head coach and believe in him, and Phil Jackson. You know, it's about timing. It's about putting pieces together and they work at the right time. And so the Knicks going to have to develop a plan and stick to it. And it's going to be rocky. It's not going to be, you're not going to jump off and be great right off the bat. But you're going to have to, one, draft smart, try to create a winning environment around your team to make people want to come. Okay? And you have to do it without the lure of New York now, because that's what they always had before. But, you know, like Kevin Durant said something that, you know, the New York fans didn't like hearing, but it's the truth. He says, New York doesn't have that cachet anymore with these young kids because their whole lives, the Knicks were never good.
Yeah.
You see? Yeah. So it's hard for you to say, oh, these young kids are dying to come to New York, the greatest city, whatever. It's like, no, they're not. Because they never saw that team be good.
Nope.
So until you start putting a team there that is good, and the crazy thing about New York is, if a New York team is good, oh man, they get pressed like you will not believe. That's the capital NBA is in New York. You know, nobody wants a team to be better in this league than the Knicks, than Adam Silver. He don't have to get on a plane. He gets in the car and comes to the Garden.
Yes. I agree with you.
I agree with you. Miss having, you know, conference championships and second and third round playoffs in New York City in Madison Square Garden. They miss that. It's important to the league that New York is good.
Man, and I agree with you because, like, when I grew up, obviously I got a chance to see Bernard King and those guys. But then here comes Pat, of course, John, Charles, all those guys. And I saw, you know, if it wasn't for Michael Jordan, that would have been the team of the East, obviously, right? And I look at that now because, like you said, this generation, I sit around media people who are younger than me. They didn't see this. They saw the 2000s early Knicks, and they're like, what was that? And like, you sure this team was ever anything? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's just like you said. And I've made this statement before, organizations win championships. And a good example is that, look, you know, you look in football, look at the New England Patriots, for example. You know, prior to Jerry Jones getting on his high horse, the Cowboys had a great front office. The way they ran it, you know, he had the coaches involved. The way they were able to draft, trade Herschel Walker for all those picks. I agree with you. And like you said, Jerry West is a great example. I mean, the Memphis Grizzlies, now with the Clippers, Golden State, the Lakers, his history in basketball, you know, he can go in the Hall of Fame for what he's done.
Best executive of all times. Best executive of all times.
Yes, yeah. And I think, you know, one guy that's falling in his footsteps is Masai Ujiri, the Toronto Raptors.
Very smart guy.
Very smart guy. When nobody said, hey, we're going to trade DeMar DeRozan, he made that a point. And he traded DeMar DeRozan when everybody said, "Why would you do that for a rental?" And guess what happened? He got a rental in Kawhi Leonard. What happens? They win a championship.
They won a chip. And
so,
speaking about the Raptors, the reigning defending champs, okay?
Yes.
Watch out for them.
Yes, I like the Pascal Siakam.
Listen, they got a better record than they did with Kawhi Leonard. No one's talking about them, okay? Not only that, they've been down there in Orlando before anybody else, setting up camp, working with each other, trying to make sure they're right. Let me tell you something. Don't sleep on the defending champs. That's all. Everyone's talking about Milwaukee. Everyone's talking about Miami. I'm telling you, this team has been winning all season long. They have chemistry. They've already won a championship. They got good coaching. I'm telling you, they can upset a team coming in. They're the champs.
I agree with you. And I like you said, once again, front office, Pascal Siakam. You get that guy, you develop him. Now look at him. He's an all-star, and the sky's the limit for them. So before we get into music, I want to ask you about a couple of players, and you give me your opinion on them real quick.
Sure.
So the first person that comes to mind, obviously, LeBron James. When you look at LeBron James, what do you see?
I look at a player like we've never seen before. Size, speed, basketball IQ. And I can't say enough for, how he's conducted himself, as a man for the most part, especially in comparison to his counterparts. He's an amazing talent and, one of those, every generation talents that can truly control a game because of the way he plays it. That's the game. He's revolutionized the game in the sense that he plays point forward. And, there's no traditional point guard on his team that plays the traditional role. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, it's, he's unique and special.
Okay. So obviously you talked about the mid-range earlier, and obviously this guy comes to mind because he also said something about how the mid-range is dead now. Kevin Durant, 7-foot sniper, man. Can you talk about what you see from him?
Well, he's a freak. The guy, is damn near 7 feet, who can handle the ball, shoot the ball like a guard. I think that one of the smartest things he ever did was to go to Golden State Warriors. And probably one of the dumbest things he'll ever do is maybe leave the Golden State Warriors, if you ask me. He went to the Golden State Warriors. Why? Jerry West. Thank you very much. Told him that, listen, how many scoring titles you got? 4. But when is the world going to see your overall game? When are you ever going to be considered the best player in the world, not just the best scorer? He says on a team like Golden State, they're going to see you do everything. They're going to see you pass. You don't need to take more than 20 shots a game, ever. On that team.
He's efficient.
Okay.
He's efficient.
But they're going to see you block shots. They're going to see you steal. They're going to see you lock down other players. They're going to see all these things that we didn't see Kevin Durant do before, okay, that you're capable of. And we did. We saw a great all-around player, okay, and that, can play with other great players. And, and I thought it was amazing how he played. And I was looking for more years to come with him in Golden State. I don't know what's going to happen with him with the Nets. I actually think that's a kind of a tough situation. You look at it now, it doesn't seem like that smart of a move. Coming off an Achilles injury on the other side of 30, you playing on a Nets team, which has another star in there, another star that I think probably hasn't played more than 50 games in the season.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a concern on the injury side.
Let me tell you something, man. Kyrie Irving, man, talent-wise,
showtime.
You can't say anything about him, at least not offensively. But one, you can't help me from the bench. I don't care how good you are. Okay? You can't help me from the bench. Okay? And it appears as though there seems to be some sort of divisiveness with him on the teams that he's in. So, unless you have that other player who is really the star, like a LeBron James. Or maybe it will be that way when he has, Kevin Durant.
Yes.
But the thing with Kevin Durant, and which I don't know, and we'll come to see, I don't know how much of a leader he is. I don't know if he's the guy who leads the team through his example and can be a leader. But he is definitely the best player on any team he's on.
I'll say this, just knowing the guy and, covering him and seeing him outside of like when he was at Oklahoma City, one thing that I like that he's very good at, as far as the leadership side, was the teaching part. He was very big about teamwork. And I think that a lot of people don't understand when it was in Oklahoma City, it was like, pass the ball to Russ, pass it, especially last year, pass it back and forth between two guys and nobody else got involved. And he got tired of it. So I think that like he wanted to go to that team situation, like you said, in Golden State, to where his skills.
All the people who like put down his decision to go to Golden State, even Stephen A. Smith, who I like a lot, is really not accurate. No, because multiple outlets reported before the season started, before his last season at OKC, one, that he was looking for another team, and he was leaning and interested in the Golden State Warriors. Now, this is before the season started, before they were down 3-1 and let them come back. So you mean to tell me, because he loses to Golden State, right, in the playoffs, that he's supposed to forget about the team that he was thinking about wanting to go to in the first place? Now,
I see.
What I'm saying is that if after that series is the first time you heard that Kevin Durant wanted to go to the Golden State Warriors, man, that sounds like, oh, come on, man. They just beat you there, you want to join. No. There was rumors about that and people close to him saying that he was interested in them before the season started.
I think so. I agree with you. I heard the same story.
So I'm trying to figure this out. I mean, like, there's a girl you like, and all of a sudden now, since you lose out to another guy, and now she becomes available, you're not supposed to like her no more?
My point. Exactly. I just find it weird because, like, we hold these, like, I remember, like, I wasn't born during this time, but I remember when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he got traded to the Lakers, there was never a big deal. Like, he sort of made clear where he wanted to go. There was no issue. The Lakers are already talented. You're talking about a team with Jamal Wilkes, Norm Nixon, Magic was getting there his rookie year. You're talking about a talented team. And then you look at Moses Malone. Moses Malone all those years played for who? And all of a sudden he ends up with Philly with Dr. J, with Andrew Toney, Mo Cheeks. The list goes on. Nothing gets said. But when a guy makes a decision, because he has the right to in free agency, I've never heard a person say, hey, I'm not going to take the best job. I'm just going to take a job that makes me work the hardest. You want to work hard, but you also want to work smart, right? So
you also want to play the brand of basketball that you think is good. I mean, to me, there was no team in the league that played a better brand of basketball than the Golden State Warriors in the last few years. That ball movement, the amount of times the ball would move and touch a player before a shot went up. I mean, come on. I mean, that's the way. If you want to play team basketball, that's what you want to do. And you also want to be on a team where they can't focus on you. They can't double and triple team me.
Yeah.
Because they do. I'm just going to dish it to my man who's going to knock it down.
Yeah, I think it's a huge difference. And no jokes, all jokes aside, I think it's a huge difference to pass to Klay Thompson than passing to Andre Roberson, right? There's a huge difference there, right? Yeah. So
big. And there's days where you can go out there and get 4 or 5 block shots and have a triple double, and have 22, 10, and 12, okay, and win big. Don't even play the fourth quarter. I mean, come on.
See, there you go. See, everybody. I told y'all this man got skills. See, we need to get you on the sport. You need a sports show. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but
no. I think people tell me that all the time. I've thought about it. We've ever come up with some concept. Just nothing has materialized yet, and this COVID hasn't helped. But yeah, people tell me that even when I go on these different shows like Chris Bouchard's show and stuff like that. Yes, they're always like, "Do you go on this show? You should do a show." I'm like, "Yeah, if I can fit in my schedule, I love to."
Man. All right, so real quick, 2 other
players. I can have guests like you and Mark Stein on my show.
Oh man, me and Mark got stories for days, man. Trust me. Being out here in Dallas, man, we got We got some funny stuff.
Sure.
Shout out to Mark Stein, man. So 2 players real quick that are young, under the age of 21. Both of them, one is 21. I think one is about to turn 20. If not, he's 20 now. Zion Williamson and Luka Doncic. What do you see in those two, man? Because it's crazy to see how good they are already.
Well, let's talk about your boy Luka first.
Okay.
I think he's a amazing talent, in the sense that he has a great deal of confidence, and he has the game to back it up. Good. And he's really played an incredible season, maybe first team All Pro at the end of the day, and it's great. I think in his. What's going to be the determining factor with him as far as how far he goes as far as winning championships is going to be, his game on the other end of the floor.
Okay.
I mean,
I got you. I
if
agree.
you look at the great players, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hardly any of them wanted just playing one end of the court.
Yeah.
Jerry West is one of the greatest offensive players we've ever seen, but he also led the league in steals.
Mm-hmm.
We already know LeBron could be a lockdown defender. Okay, we know what Kawhi is, one of the best two-way players we've seen. Same thing with Michael Jordan, first team all defense. I don't know how many years. Kobe Bryant, same thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like
telling the truth. Telling the truth here.
The game is played on both ends. So until you become that dominant player on the other end, to where you know that your man is not going to score as much as you, or you're not a liability on defense. Not just liability, but someone that can stop another team from doing that. That's what's going to be the real sign of his progression, because offensively, he obviously has
it. See, and I agree with you. You named some great players, and like some guys that are one-dimensional, they don't last long in the league because once that certain skill deteriorates, they can't fall back on anything else. So I agree with you there, man. Like you got a good point on Luka. So Zion. I mean, physical freak. Obviously, the LeBron comparisons there.
Yeah, but I don't really see any LeBron comparisons. LeBron was always, even in high school, was a full court player. If you look at him, he's bringing the ball up, he's pushing the pace, he's making all kind of things happen. Zion's not a ball handler. He's not a guy who's out there playing point forward. He's a dominant player who actually has more of a small forward's body than he has a power forward, although he plays a power forward game. Yeah. Which makes him undersized. And and every once in a while there'll be players that will excel that way. Charles Barkley was that way. And a few other players that will excel for their size, but his skill, he's gonna have to develop that skill to go along with that agility and size, because that agility and size only take him so far. Yeah. And as high as somebody jumps, each year he gets older, at a certain age, he's going to jump just a little bit less. So it's going to have to be about, his skill, his first step, his ability to pull back and hit a jumper. People are going to lay off him unless they know he's going to hit a shot, because they know that he has a great first step and they'll dunk on you. So I think that his talent and his explosiveness will definitely be something to be reckoned with. But how much he works on his overall game and improving facets of his game on both ends of the floor is going to be, the true test. And it's going to be hard for him because he's already been somewhat anointed already. And when you're somewhat anointed and you have that money and everything else, some people just don't have that motivation. So we're going to have to see what drives Zion, what's inside of him.
Man, see, this is a wealth of knowledge. I love this, man, because this guy understands the game. It's bigger than just what you can do. He understands what it takes in the front office. He understands skill. And see, that's what I'm talking about. This is a conversation I love to have. I don't care about all the stats in the game. He understands everything that comes before it and after. So I love that. So now, this is where I really want to talk to you about music. So
I thought you wanted to talk to me about the Mavs.
Okay, I mean, if you want to, man, because obviously.
Well, I just quickly on the Mavs. Quickly on the Mavs. I think the Mavs have a smart owner. I think the Mavs have talent.
Okay.
And I don't know how much Porzingis is going to be healthy enough
Got you.
to take Dallas where they need to go. Porzingis has got to play 70 games a season, okay, for them
Yes.
for them to be successful, for him and Luka to have that kind of chemistry together, for that team to have that two-headed monster that they can have. He can't be out for periods of time and then get acclimated again. That's not going to work. You know, and it definitely doesn't work in the playoffs where you need to have all that chemistry and everything going for you right off the jump. So that's what I think is going to be the biggest ticket with Porzingis. Is one of the reasons why I don't really stress over him leaving New York, because when I look at a player and he's on the bench most of the times I see him, I can't possibly miss him.
I like it. I see that logic.
He got to be a hell of a dresser for me to miss him if he's on the bench.
Woo, woo, woo. That gave me chills there. Okay, yeah, man. That's something that's gonna be good. So last basketball question. So obviously the bubble's coming back in Orlando. And who do you see winning the championship this year? Obviously you're very high on Toronto, but who do you see winning the championship?
You know, I don't really think anyone can say who they see winning the championship at this point. Only because if you ask me when the season ended, I could tell you, because I got to actually see teams play and I got to see their chemistry and see how they're working together. It's going to be interesting to see how teams come back after the bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of players are going to be healthy that weren't healthy before. Teams aren't going to have some of the same chemistry they had before. You look at LA, for example. One of the biggest part of LA's success is Bradley. You know, we talk about LeBron James and AD and everybody else, but you know, it's like until you got that guy that you put on that best player, the Bradley's who guards, you know, Harden. Bradley's the number one defender against the 3-point shot. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, we all know that when it comes down to playoffs, it's defense wins. Because all of them teams can score. It's going to be the team that can play defense and stop the other teams on the court is the team that's going to win, because the game slows down. It's a half-court game. It's not that up and down game that we see.
Yeah.
You know, it's that half-court game. Teams are going to be, you know, it's going to be a coach's game. Teams are going to have to lock down, guard their man, stop people. The games are going to be lower scoring. And you have to be able to have that kind of chemistry with one another and trust one another. And if you look at the old days, we all watched The Last Dance.
Yes.
Well, by the time the playoffs came, there's nobody that trusts people less than Michael Jordan. But by the time the playoffs came, he trusted all those guys. He knew he could throw it to Paxton. He knew he could throw it to Kerr. He already had them conditioned to make that shot. Yeah. You know, they've been through the wars. They've been through the battles. You know, I mean, we talk about the bad boys. The bad boys are probably the best thing that ever happened to the Bulls.
The greatest thing, yeah.
Because if you could get through them, you had to win a championship.
Yep. Very underrated team, because I look at all the time, like being a Dallas guy. Obviously, Mark McGuire was a Maverick, but seeing a Mark McGuire, a guy that was scoring 29 a game, to say, hey, you know what, I'm sacrificing my ability to score to be just one of the guys. And not only that, he said, hey, I'll go to the bench and let Dennis start. That just tells you what kind of that was crazy. And now in perspective, there's a lot of guys that wouldn't do that in basketball for the sake of winning. It's more about,
you know,
like,
basketball's a tough sport, you know, because you know, it's a popular sport. It's it has, you know, a lot of the glamour and glitz around it. But if you're a selfish player, it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Because it's a team game.
Yep.
You know? So when you get out on that court, if you're being selfish or it's about you, it's ultimately not gonna work.
Man, and you know what's so crazy about this? Tommy Shepard said the same thing to a man Cal on Above the Rim. He said the exact same thing in a different way. So, man, this is crazy. I love this because you understand the game of basketball. And it's also great that you played the game. You also studied the game. I mean, like, you talking about this defense and stuff, man, it made me rethink now, because, like, obviously I thought, you know, with everybody coming back, you know, I'm going to be some adjustment. Talent-wise, I thought maybe the Lakers do have a chance because LeBron is fully rested. But then the defensive side, I look at, like, the Clippers, man. You talking about having Paul George and Kawhi, two great defenders with Patrick Beverley. The only thing they may suffer from is the size part from the center side, but like you talking about that front court defense, man, that is probably like arguably the best trio you could put out there on the court at once when it comes to defense. So,
Well,
man,
you have to think about it too. Is that the game is you talk about except for size, but you have to realize there's not a lot of teams that have that dominant man in the middle.
They don't. Nope.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Nope.
And so, I mean, even the Lakers got two good centers, but they're blatantly defensive centers. They're not guys that are gonna put 20 points on you.
Yeah.
So, it depends. It's gonna be about chemistry. It's gonna be about how guys come back. But a lot of people are gonna be healthy. But like when you look at Paul George and Kawhi, but they haven't played a lot together.
They haven't. That's the downfall.
They haven't played a lot together. Yeah, I mean, you think of two wings that could just be hell on you. Those two. But they gotta play together. It can't be, I saw them playing one time together, and Paul George was patting the ball way too much.
Yeah.
It's like when you got guys like this, you gotta be moving that ball. That's the one thing I love about Kawhi's game. Kawhi dribbles the ball with a purpose. He dribbles the ball to get to a spot.
Yep.
He ain't sitting there putting it between his legs, around his back, or none of that. He's getting to a spot.
I agree with you. I think that's a basketball culture thing because
and he'd be damned if you stop him.
Yep. And I think that's a basketball culture thing because he came from a Spurs organization that understands we move the ball here. Whereas Paul George, he comes from Oklahoma City. So obviously playing with Westbrook, no knock to Westbrook, but
no. He really comes from Indiana. That's where he played most of the time. It's Indiana.
Yeah.
Where
he was just and I think like him in Indiana, and it's so weird because he played with David West, he played with certain guys like George Hill, he played with those guys, but like he never really learned how to play without the ball. And that sounds crazy, but a lot of guys that are great players, they don't know how to play without the ball. Like you said, Kawhi, he picks spots, he moves his spot. I watched it up close and personal when he was in Toronto, right? I remember just watching him. He would go to the mid-range. He would go to the elbow. He would move without the ball so quick, so smooth. You would even see it. And like all of a sudden he's there in his spot. Boom, right in your face. And I just think that I agree with you, man. Like Paul George, he does a lot of dribbling. Like for 17 seconds, he does this. Then all of a sudden, nobody's available to do anything because the is stagnant. So I agree with you, man. Like they got to play together, just like KP and Luka. We got to see you guys play together to say, hey, you can do this. So, man, woo, you got me amped up, man. This is great, man. I love this, man. So now music. So I'm a big music fan. So one thing I love collecting vinyls. I love collecting records. I listen to music. Like I love mixtures of music when you can mix hip hop in with certain sounds and certain things. Now you have a musical background, obviously. Like, we already know from the acting side, the singing alone, but you're involved in music. And, you're able to write music and do things like that. Leon and the Peoples. I want you to talk about that, man.
Yeah, my band, Leon and the Peoples, we've been around for, 13 years now. And, we're primarily a live band. Even the songs we put on our record, we play live before we record them to see what the audience response is. Mm-hmm. And we play a mixture between reggae, soul, and pop, probably. And people, people really, take to our music. It makes them feel good. It's thought provoking, and we move butts.
I like that. So performing live in front of people versus like, hey, being on the stream. How is it for you? Because I'm pretty sure for you, it's another day. It's another walk in the park. It's like a free throw for you. But like performing live, you feed off the fans' energy, right? Like the people in the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
You feed off of that.
Right.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah. The interesting part about music with me is that, being well known as an actor, a lot of people didn't know that I had a band or didn't know that I sang. And so it would be a big shock to them at my shows sometimes, because sometimes I'll just be on a tour with somebody or a festival. And I'll come out, and people, and at first come out, people be listening, just feeling the music. And after a while, I see they see me. And then, of course, all the cameras start coming out and everything. Is, but then they realize that because, oh, wow, this is his band. And it's like, yeah, and it's cool because I'm a trained actor, but I'm a trained to take a writer's words and breathe life into them. When I'm on the stage performing, that's me. That's my music, or the music that I want to sing. And so they're two totally different things to me, but the audience means everything.
Growing up, like, were there any particular singers or like performers that you looked at that you're like, man, this is amazing, that sort of caught your eye, that made you want to make that push to be a live, like singer, live, like band, be a part of a band of sorts?
Sure, definitely. I mean, right off the bat, I always look at songwriters, people who actually write songs, and right off the bat, I mean, I had these questions asked me constantly. There's James Taylor, there's my man Smokey Robinson,
Legend.
yeah, and there's Bob Marley.
Wow.
Of course there are others, but I mean, right off the top of my head, when I think of great songwriters, and I think of people who've just written songs that I've admired since I was a young boy, those are three names that just come right off the top for me.
Just watching some of your live performances and stuff, especially in these coming days, like I noticed perfection. Like that's something that you guys sort of practice. Like a lot of bands, I love, like I said, I love music. I see a lot of bands, they play it together and it seems like it's repetition. But for you guys, it seems like you guys are like, it's like you're freestyling and you're having fun doing it. Like the sounds, the spirit, like there could be a moment where the percussionist is louder than the bass player, or the bass player takes over and you guys are having fun with it. And can you talk about, how you prep with the band and like, how does that work? Because like, it's a band. Not only is it a band, it's a pretty big band. Can you talk about that?
Well, I mean, you basically said it. When people are watching an artist perform or a band perform, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things they do is they feed off the energy of the band. So if the band or performer up there looks like they're having a great time, mm-hmm. you usually having a great time.
Yep.
And so the one thing I always tell my band, even if before we go out there, we pray, whatever, I said, listen, let's go out there and have the time of our lives tonight. Because we know what we're doing. We know we can do it well. So let's go out there and just have fun. All the rehearsals and stuff that we do is like that all comes down to us performing. So let's go out there and let them see how much we enjoy performing with each other. And when they see that, they're gonna love rocking with us.
I see, and I agree, because like I said, it seems like it's so melodic. Like the sound is melodic, everything about it, like reggae and soul. I just don't. When I first heard that, I was like, okay, how do you mix reggae and soul? Like I thought it was like, there's no way. But then when I hear it, your voice brings the soul, the sound brings the reggae, or vice versa. And you guys bring it together, and it actually works. And I'm like, wow, I never thought about it this way, and it makes sense. So if anybody out there, like right now, music-wise, that you would love to collaborate with, do a live show with, like there are artists that catch your eye and say, hey man, we need to make this work.
Oh yeah, there's so many. I mean, I'm a big lover of talent, and there's so many artists out there that are doing great work, that are really talented. Yeah. That it'd be hard for me to mention even one or two of them. For me, it's like, just like I told you earlier in movies, it's about the story. With collaborating with an artist or doing something on stage with an artist, it's about the song. It's about the song. If it's a good song and you want to get down, or want me to get down with you, let's go. Let's have fun.
Yeah. I love it. All right, so I gotta ask you this, man. What's coming up for the band and you, music-wise? Like, we got, man, because I want to keep this going, man. I like what you guys are doing, and I'm on iTunes. I got it all set up on my iTunes.
Yeah,
my YouTube and everything.
We planned on touring this summer, and everything just got shut down. We were going to start off on the Tom Joyner cruise that we got booked on with Alicia Keys and Usher and a bunch of other people, and then we were just going to really tour, because we haven't toured with our latest album, Love Is a Beautiful Thing, yet. We haven't got a chance to.
Yes.
So we were waiting. We were really looking forward to do that until this pandemic hit, and so now we're just about to do some live videos and some other things that we can do now, in hopes that whenever things break and people want to see live music again, we're there and ready to go.
Man, and hopefully you guys make a stop, in the South, to come out when everything clears up. come out here to Dallas or something, man, because I want to be there, man. So
Oh
I
no,
got to travel to Houston. That's fine.
That was definitely one of the stops because we had just played Houston and
Okay.
we want to play Houston again. And I
Okay.
told him that
All
I
right.
wanted to do Austin and Dallas on the same trip. So we were already planning that, and this happened.
Big scene in Dallas, trust me, man. When it comes to reggae music, especially out here in the Deep Ellum area, man, it's a huge reggae scene. I think, man, your sound, you guys' sound, it's a unique sound, and I think that it will be definitely loved out here. So
Well, you make sure when we come, you promote us and let people know we come.
Oh, no. And the question, when we get done with this, I'm getting you information. Trust me, I do another radio show, a sports show on FM. I'm going to make sure that we're going to get you promoted, man. That's
right.
nothing. That ain't nothing but a word. Trust me.
Hey,
So one thing, man, so one thing I do on here, and we're going to close this out. So, because I know you got some tennis to do, man. So like I told y'all, athlete and everything. This dude, I'm telling y'all, he does it all. What does he not do? What does he not do? See, once again, so I play this game called Got Bars. So it's called Got Bars Official. You go to the website, gotbarsofficial.com. Check it out. I'm a part of this brand. I'm going to get you some of these cards. This is a hip-hop trivia game.
Okay.
It's pretty fun. So these are going to be what we call the action cards. The action cards are actually in white. And what they do is they're going to be opinionated answers from you. So I'm going to give you 3 of these, and I need your opinion on them. And this is going to be pretty simple for you. So I'm going to keep it easy for you. And this is going to be a coastal deal here for you. So East Coast. So I need to ask you this. Who's the greatest rapper from the East Coast all time?
Woo. Wow. Greatest rapper from the East Coast. It's really hard because, you know, there's some people who have a flow like, say, Biggie, for example, and nobody can ever duplicate, you know. But I think the fact that his career was cut short kind of takes him out of that conversation.
Okay.
But I mean, if you talk about success-wise, longevity, career-wise, being able to keep yourself current and relevant, I don't think there's anybody that's done that better or bigger than Jay-Z.
There we go. Oh, Sean Carter. Yeah, I agree with you. I think for my money, I would say Jay-Z. Definitely Biggie had the longevity part. May have a different discussion. There's several other rappers that I can name. Obviously, Rakim, the legendary Rakim, of course, just different guys. Nas, of course, Nas. Like when you think of East Coast rap, I think honestly, if you say East Coast rap, Nas probably gets mentioned before everybody because Nas is just, you know, his character, his persona, stoic. Like, you know, the words that he's delivered, the message, you know, it's a great thing. All right, I like that. So the next question, and this is non-hip hop right here on this question. What was the first album that you ever purchased? Whether it was vinyl, 45, tape, whatever track, you know, A track, what was it?
Bob Marley, Natty Dread album.
Wow. See, that's some history then. That makes sense. There you go. Okay. I like that. All right. Last question. Biggie or Tupac?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I gotta hear this. Look, I know. Look, man. Trust me. I've had the ultimate East Coast guys on, the ultimate West Coast guys, and this one always gets them hung up. Like they, you know, it's a tough one.
Well, I mean, it's tough for me for several reasons. You know, one, I'm always going to lean towards my New York guy.
Okay.
But I'm also, for me, Tupac is also kind of East Coast. Even though he was repping the West, he's also kind of East Coast to me. So, and then, you know, I knew him. You know, I was there that night he got shot. Wow. We were all at the fight together. Wow. So, yeah, you know, that's a tough one. I have to say though.
Say a tie. We can make it a tie. It's no big deal. Trust me.
Well, you know, it's hard because I think Tupac music made an impression, just like he did. But yeah, Biggie just had a flow that was just.
I know. It's
nasty.
Different. It's nasty, and that's my thing, man. Like Biggie is nasty.
It's like you can hear other rappers like Tupac will try to be like Tupac, But ain't no one can even try to be like Biggie.
And I agree because people ask me all the time, Biggie or Tupac. I say, well, personally for me, I think Biggie is the better rapper. Tupac may be the overall better entertainer for his talent and everything that goes along with it. But when you're telling me rapping, if you put them both in a stage together and had them battle each other, Biggie wins that, no question, 10 out of 10 times. Out of 10 times.
Oh yeah, no, his flow, everything, man, it was just unique. I would have liked to see, of course, I would have wished he'd, lived further to do more music, and would have liked to see what he would have done on a conscious level. Because the one thing Tupac, as much as he rap and spit all kind of stuff on the streets, he also gave us some real conscious songs, that made us think. And I would like to see Biggie evolve to be that kind of person where he started rapping about things like that. And something tells me he might have made some really powerful songs.
I think so, and I agree with you. And I think if they both were able to come together, unfortunately, circumstances didn't help that cause, but I think if they both would have came together, the impact on that would have been, oh man, it'd be a different history right now in hip hop.
Yeah, well, they should have. Two black, young, successful men. I mean, they should only be allies, never enemies.
All right, so actually, I have one more, and I think this is good for you. So I need you to recite one lyric, and it could be hip hop, it could be R&B, reggae. Recite one lyric that you live by.
No, that I live by.
Yeah.
Love and let live.
Wow. If you don't know what that is that man. Wow.
Love and let live.
Woo. Well, that was Got Bars official. Got Bars. Y'all definitely go to the website there. But man, I appreciate you coming on. And before we get out, I just need you to plug in everything that you got going, your IG and everything. And obviously, when we close down, I'm gonna get your information. But I need you to plug in everything, man. Tell everybody where they can find you, what you got going. Obviously, with the COVID right now, it's crazy. But where can they find you?
Wow, let's see. You can always reach me on my social media, which is on Instagram, which is www.justleon, www.justleon. And on Twitter, it's without the W's, it's just Leon. And on Facebook, it's Leon. And let's see, next month, I'm one of the stars of A Love Tale, which is a very provocative story about four women living and loving in Harlem, which is Essence Magazine's, Essence Studios, actually, their first scripted series. I don't know when I'll be back in production, but I'm on this show called City on the Hill on Showtime.
Okay.
And with Kevin Bacon. And I'm also the male lead in Set It Off, which is the hit stage play that's sold out everywhere. We were coming to Dallas. We will sell out
once
Dallas
again.
But this happened, so I don't know when we'll be back to doing live theater. But that's what's up there. And then a few more things in the works. I have a production company, Motion Mouth Films in New York, which we are in development of doing a few things. And you'll be hearing from us, that's for sure.
So all my fans out there, I know how you guys are very great at doing this. Everything Motion Rock Films, everything that he has, I need you guys to follow, subscribe, comment on it. Make sure we get the views up on everything on YouTube, everything that he has on Disney Plus. Keep the cool running. He's gonna keep everything that this man has done. This is history, guys. Right now, this is history that I'm talking to, and I've talked to many great people. I don't know if I've ever talked to someone more multifaceted as this guy, and I really appreciate you, Leon. I really do. This is to me. If I had to I've done 10 years worth of interviews with NBA players, actors. I think this is probably my favorite I've ever done. Like seriously.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. I'm excited to hear that.
All right, so we're gonna get out, and everybody be sure to subscribe to the channel and definitely subscribe to everything that Leon is doing. Please. I think it's time that we give this man his roses. He deserves them, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you saying all those kind words. Stay safe, okay?
Yes.
Let's do everything we can to, get over. I know things are raging out there in Texas right now. So please be careful. Wear your mask. If you got to go out, your gloves, we don't need any more of us dying, that's for sure. And let's try not to get sick. Let's get over this so we can get back to our regular lives.
Yeah, I heard the man, everybody. And once again, thank you as well for being an advocate online for everything that you're speaking about with police brutality. We appreciate that. You know, being a young guy, I appreciate your sentiment, your wisdom on that as well. I do thank you.
Yes, you know, it's a very important issue. I'm glad that everyone is aware of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, let's just be smart about this. You know, let's make this world a better place. And let's vote, please.
Yeah, I heard the man. Let's vote. We out. Peace.
All right, man. Take care, Chief.
All right. All right, stay.